November 14th, 1943, 14:30 hours. Bougainville Island, Solomon Islands. Staff Sergeant Daniel Morrison pressed his cheek against the stock of his Springfield rifle. 23 years old, Montana farm boy, lifetime hunter. His eye aligned perfectly with the 8-power unertl scope. Through the reticle 630 yards distant, he watched something that would haunt him for 58 years. A Japanese captain, maybe 25, consulting a map, coordinating defensive positions with sharp, efficient movements that spoke of professional training. The officer reached inside his jacket, pulled out a letter, read one line while continuing to work. Wife, mother, sister Morrison's crosshairs settled on the captain's chest. Steady, unwavering. 15 yards to his left, a dented Campbell's chicken noodle soup can sat on a stick. Both ends removed. Small hole punched in the side. The can caught afternoon sun. A brilliant flash shot across the jungle, aimed precisely at Japanese positions. The captain looked up, distracted for exactly 3 seconds. Exposed. Morrison's finger rested on the trigger. "This is kill number 103. 9 more to go." The Springfield spoke once. Through the scope, Morrison watched the letter flutter from the captain's hand. The officer fell. The letter landed in mud. Someone's words. Someone's love. Someone's hope. Sinking into Solomon Islands mud alongside a dead man. Someone's waiting for that letter. Someone will never read it. This was Daniel Morrison's 103rd confirmed kill in 4 days. Before this week ended, he would kill 9 more. An entire Japanese regiment would be paralyzed by fear of Campbell's soup cans and sunlight. The Japanese would call him Akuma no Sogeki Hei, the demon sniper. But the real story isn't the 112 kills. It's how a Montana farm boy who learned to hunt elk with his father weaponized garbage and human psychology to create the most devastating 5 days in Pacific sniper warfare. And why, 60 years later, he would say, necessary doesn't mean proud. It means necessary. But to understand how soup cans became weapons of war, we need to go back 9 months, to a moment that changed everything, to the day Dan Morrison lost the one person who made him feel human in hell. Bitterroot Mountains, Montana. Winter, 1936. Daniel Morrison, age 11, crouched beside his father in snow that reached his waist. Temperature somewhere around -15 Fahrenheit. They had been motionless for 3 hours. Daniel could no longer feel his toes. His fingers ached inside wool gloves that his mother had knitted. William Morrison, World War I. Veteran wounded at Belleau Wood, left leg shorter than right from shrapnel, whispered without moving his lips. Patience kills more elk than bullets.
You watching the system? Young. Daniel scanned the tree line 400 yards distant. Wind patterns, bending branches. Movement inconsistent with natural flow. Bird behavior. A raven that had been calling from the same pine for 20 minutes suddenly went silent. Elk herd's been through here, 6 hours ago, moving east. His father's eyes didn't shift from the scope. How you know snow disturbed under that pine, protected from wind but still showing tracks. Birds avoiding that ravine. Predator smell lingers. And the... Daniel stopped. A branch 600 yards out moved wrong. Against wind direction. Too deliberate. Too controlled. There. William Morrison smiled. The first smile Daniel had seen from his father in 3 days. Never hunt the animal. Hunt the system. Elk are smart. They learn patterns. The hunter who survives isn't the best shot. It's the one who never does the same thing twice.
That lesson taught in frozen Montana mountains by a man who'd survived German machine guns in France would kill 112 Japanese soldiers 7 years later. By age 13, Daniel could estimate range by eye within 25 yards. Tested against surveyor's equipment his uncle brought from Missoula. He could hit running jackrabbit at 300 yards with a .22 rifle. Iron sights. Accounting for lead based on speed and distance calculated in his head. He could remain motionless in sub-zero cold for 6 hours, longer if necessary. He could read animal behavior through environmental cues that most hunters never noticed. But the real skill was psychological. Dad taught me elk adapt. They remember where danger came from, so you never shoot from the same spot twice. You never create patterns they can learn. You make them paranoid. Paranoid animals make mistakes. Daniel had a younger brother, Thomas Morrison, 3 years younger. Worshipped Daniel with the uncomplicated devotion only younger brothers possess. Thomas followed Daniel everywhere, practiced shooting until his hands bled and his shoulder turned purple from rifle recoil. December 8, 1941, Pearl Harbor, plus 1 day. Daniel and Thomas sat at the kitchen table with enlistment papers. Their mother stood at the stove, back rigid, not turning around. She knew what was coming. Daniel pushed one set of papers toward himself. "You're too young, Tommy. Wait a year. I'll go. You finish school." Thomas pushed his own papers forward. "You can't do this without me." Daniel felt something crack inside his chest. Not breaking. Cracking, like ice on a frozen pond when you step wrong. "I have to do this for you. Stay safe. Take care of Mum." Daniel enlisted alone, carried guilt like a stone in his pocket. What if Thomas needs me and I'm not there? What if something happens and I could have prevented it by staying home? 3 weeks later, Daniel received a letter from home. Thomas had lied about his age, enlisted anyway, 101st Airborne, shipping to Europe. Daniel's journal entry, December 29th, 1941. "Tommy got in. Part of me proud, part of me terrified. I taught him to shoot, taught him to hunt, taught him patience and observation and how to read the wind. What if I taught him wrong? What if patience isn't enough when men are shooting back? What if the skills that work on elk get him killed by Germans?" Daniel was heading to the Pacific, Thomas to Europe. Both would fight. Both would hunt men instead of elk. Only one would come home. Marine Corps Scout Sniper School, Camp Pendleton, California, June 1943. Gunnery Sergeant William Hayes stood before 40 Marine candidates. Hayes had fought at Guadalcanal, had 37 confirmed kills, had watched 15 men in his battalion die from Japanese sniper fire before he finally located and eliminated the shooter. Killing is last resort. Your job is to watch, to report, to gather intelligence. But when you do shoot, you shoot to create maximum psychological impact on survivors. Hayes walked between the rows of seated Marines. "You think this is about marksmanship? It's not. Half of you can outshoot me on a range. But rangers don't shoot back. Rangers don't adapt. Rangers don't learn your patterns and set ambushes." He stopped in front of Daniel. "Your enemy is smart, trained, experienced. The Japanese sniper who survives 6 months in combat is better than you. He has to be. Every mistake he could make, he's already made and survived. You're new. You'll make mistakes. The question is whether you survive them." The final exercise required candidates to stalk within 200 yards of instructors equipped with binoculars. The instructors knew students were coming. Knew approximately when and from which direction. Students had to close distance without being spotted. Most candidates completed the stalk in 3 to 4 hours, rushing, thinking speed mattered more than patience. Daniel took 9 hours. He moved during wind gusts when vegetation provided natural movement camouflage. He froze when birds overhead changed flight patterns. He navigated around areas where sunlight would create shadows inconsistent with surrounding terrain. The instructors never saw him until he stood up 3 feet behind them and tapped the senior instructor on the shoulder. Hayes pulled Daniel aside after the exercise. "You're exceptional, but you're thinking like a hunter. Elk don't adapt mid-hunt. The Japanese will. The sniper who survives isn't the best shot. It's the one who never repeats himself." Daniel felt déjà vu wash over him. "My father said something similar about elk." Hayes studied him. "Your father was right. Now apply it to an enemy that shoots back." Empress Augusta Bay, Bougainville, November 1st through 8th, 1943. Daniel deployed with 2nd Battalion, 3rd Marine Division. 14,000 Marines hit the beach on November 1st, established defensive perimeter within 48 hours. Japanese resistance was light but determined. Probing attacks, sniper harassment, trying to identify weak points in American defenses. Daniel's first week was conventional infantry combat. 3 confirmed kills at long range. All clean shots, enemy soldiers moving between positions, unaware that American forces had a trained sniper with proper optics. His spotter was Corporal Luis Hernandez, 28 years old, former high school English teacher from San Antonio, Texas, 2 daughters, Maria age 6, Sophia age 4. Luis kept their photograph tucked inside his helmet, showed it to Daniel every single morning like a ritual. "This is what we're protecting, Morrison. American families. Mexican families. All families. These little girls deserve to grow up safe." Daniel and Luis developed the rhythm that makes sniper teams effective. Luis read wind, called distance, identified targets. Daniel made shots. Together they were efficient, professional, deadly. November 8th, 1943. 9:45 hours. Reconnaissance mission. They had spotted a Japanese sniper position the previous evening, tree platform approximately 600 yards distant, camouflaged perfectly, blended into jungle canopy so completely that Daniel had only identified it by watching bird behavior. Ravens avoiding that specific tree. That meant predator presence. Luis raised his binoculars. "I need visual confirmation before you shoot. Give me 10 seconds. 3 seconds later, Luis's head snapped back. The crack of the Japanese rifle arrived a fraction of a second after the bullet. Physics. Speed of sound versus speed of lead. Blood. Luis fell. Daniel froze. Watched Luis's photograph flutter from his helmet. 2 little girls, smiling. Maria missing her front teeth. Sophia holding a stuffed rabbit. The photo landed in mud. For 30 minutes, Daniel remained motionless beside Luis's body. Not from tactical discipline, from shock, from grief so complete it paralyzed every muscle. Internal voices screaming. I'd killed 3 men that week, watched them drop through my scope like elk at harvest. Felt nothing but satisfaction. Shots well placed, threats eliminated, clean kills recorded in my logbook with the same dispassion I'd recorded elk kills in Montana. Now Luis lies in mud with half his head gone. Luis, who taught English to high schoolers, who conjugated verbs and diagrammed sentences and tried to make Shakespeare relevant to kids from San Antonio Barrios, who showed me his daughter's photo every single morning, Maria with her gap-toothed smile, Sophia with her stuffed rabbit, and I feel everything, rage like fire in my chest, grief like drowning. Shame that I didn't see the Japanese sniper first. I'm supposed to be the hunter. I'm supposed to protect my team. I'm supposed to see threats before they see us. I failed. Daniel finally moved, retrieved Luis's body, cleaned the muddy photograph with careful fingers, taped it inside his own helmet where it would stay for the rest of the war and 60 years beyond. That night in his foxhole, Daniel wrote in his journal, Luis had 2 daughters. The Japanese sniper probably has family too. But Luis was my spotter, my responsibility, my failure. I can't bring him back. But I can make sure that Japanese sniper never kills another Marine, and I can make sure every Japanese soldier in this sector understands one thing. Investigating anything unusual means death. I will hunt the system. Like Dad taught me, I will make them paranoid. Captain Richard Blackwood found Daniel staring at an empty Campbell's soup can. The can was heated over a fuel tablet. Standard evening meal, chicken noodle soup that tasted like salt and regret. Daniel turned the can slowly in his hands, watched sunset reflection flash across his foxhole. Flash. Darkness. Flash. Darkness. Morrison. You all right? Daniel looked up, eyes distant. Sir, I need permission to try something unconventional, something that's going to sound crazy. Blackwood sat down on the edge of the foxhole. I'm listening. Daniel held up the soup can, tilted it deliberately. Reflection flashed across Blackwood's face, bright enough to make the captain squint. Elk investigate unusual things, new sounds, unexpected movements, light where light shouldn't be. It's curiosity, biological survival instinct. They need to know if it's threat or opportunity. Japanese soldiers are the same. They're trained to observe, analyze, respond to tactical signatures. What if I create false signatures they can't ignore, make them investigate, then shoot them when they expose themselves? Blackwood studied the soup can. Using what for signatures, Daniel tilted the can again. Flash, light, sound, anything that suggests we're communicating, moving, signaling. Create patterns that look tactical but are actually traps. Make them think we're doing something important. Make them investigate. Make them expose themselves. Long silence. Blackwood considering, weighing risk against potential reward. You have 48 hours to prove it works. If it doesn't, you're back on standard duty. Daniel nodded. Understood, sir. He spent that night positioning soup cans in the jungle, testing angles, calculating reflection patterns based on sun trajectory, string and wire rigged for remote adjustment. Creating a system. Not hunting individual soldiers. Hunting behavior patterns. Hunting curiosity. Hunting the human need to understand unusual phenomena. He didn't know it yet, but he was about to revolutionize sniper warfare. And in 5 days, he would wish he'd never started. November 9th, 1943. Pre-dawn darkness. Daniel positioned 5 soup cans on stakes 300 yards behind front lines. The position overlooked a clearing that Japanese forces used for movement between defensive positions. Natural terrain feature. Fastest route between 2 fortified areas. Japanese used it because they believed 600 yards from American lines meant safety. They believed wrong. Each soup can angle differently, positioned at heights ranging from 3 to 6 feet. String and wire pulley system rigged to allow remote adjustment without exposing himself. Daniel had learned engineering from his father. Practical Montana engineering. Make it work with what you have. Elegance doesn't matter, function matters. Setup complete at 0530 hours. Still dark. Daniel settled into his position with the Springfield. Foxhole camouflaged, firing port minimal, scope covers removed and tucked carefully in his pack. Optics clean. Ammunition arranged for quick access. 12 rounds laid out in precise order. Waiting. The best snipers are the ones who can wait, who can sit motionless for hours while their body screams for movement, while their mind invents threats that don't exist, while boredom threatens to override discipline. Daniel had been waiting since age 11, in Montana mountains, hunting elk with his father. This was familiar. 0615 hours. Sunrise. Golden light spilled across the jungle, temperature already climbing toward oppressive, humidity thick enough to make breathing feel like drowning. Daniel began the light show. Pull string alpha. Can number 1 catches sunlight. Reflection shoots across clearing, aimed precisely at known Japanese positions. Hold for 3 seconds. Release string. Reflection disappears. 30 seconds of darkness. Pull string Charlie. Can number 3. Different angle, different position. 2 seconds of light. Darkness. 45 seconds. Can number 1 again. 4 seconds this time. Creating pattern that looks like tactical signaling, like Americans communicating between positions using improvised mirrors. Intelligence officers would want to understand the pattern, decode the signals, determine what Americans were planning. 20 minutes passed. Nothing. Daniel's internal monologue started whispering doubt. Maybe Hayes was right. I'm thinking like a hunter. But soldiers aren't elk. They're trained not to investigate random anomalies, trained to report unusual activity through proper channels, trained to avoid exposing themselves unnecessarily. Maybe this whole idea is stupid. Maybe I'm wasting time and resources on farm boy intuition that doesn't apply to modern warfare. Movement. Japanese soldier emerged from tree line, partial exposure, cautious, professional. He carried binoculars, raised them slowly, scanning toward the soup can positions. Through his scope, Daniel watched the soldier's face. Young, maybe 20, concentrating, trying to locate the source of the mysterious light signals. The soldier assumed Americans were using mirrors for tactical communication. This was intelligence gold mine. If he could determine signal meaning, decode the pattern, he would know American intentions, troop movements, attack plans, defensive weaknesses. He stepped further into the clearing. 3 steps, 4 steps, raised binoculars higher. Daniel's crosshairs settled center mass, 480 yards, wind 6 miles per hour from southeast. Hold 18 inches right to compensate, slight upward angle from his position to target, add 2 inches elevation. For Luis, the Springfield cracked, recoil punched Daniel's shoulder, familiar, controlled. Through the scope still trained on target, Daniel watched. The Japanese soldier dropped instantly, chest hit, clean. The soldier never knew what happened, never heard the shot. Sound arrived after the bullet. By the time his brain could process the crack of rifle fire, he was already dying. But Daniel didn't celebrate, didn't pause, didn't allow himself even 1 second of satisfaction. He was already moving. 300 yards south to completely different position. Pre-planned, pre-prepared, secondary foxhole that he'd dug the previous night. The soup cans remained at original positions, still catching sunlight, still creating random flashes, still suggesting that's where the sniper was shooting from. 30 minutes later, Daniel heard the incoming. Japanese mortar barrage, 50-plus rounds in 4 minutes, saturating his original position with high explosive death. Trees shattered, earth thrown skyward. The sound was continuous thunder. They knew there had been a sniper, knew approximate location based on where their soldier fell. Standard counter-battery procedure, saturate the area, kill the shooter. But Daniel was gone. When the barrage ended, Daniel returned to the devastated area. His original foxhole was obliterated. A direct hit had collapsed the entire position. If he'd stayed, he would be dead. The soup cans positioned 15 yards away from the foxhole were untouched. Daniel retrieved them, brushed off dirt, checked for damage, still functional, still useful, ready for tomorrow. That evening, Captain Blackwood summoned him to battalion headquarters. A tent with folding tables covered in maps and intelligence reports. Radio operator in the corner maintaining contact with regimental headquarters. Staff officers analyzing Japanese positions and planning tomorrow's operations. Lieutenant Colonel James Fitzgerald, battalion commander, studied Daniel with sharp eyes. Fitzgerald was 42, West Point graduate,
had commanded Marines at Guadalcanal, respected by his men because he thought tactically rather than emotionally. 1 kill. Significant ammunition expenditure by enemy. 0 casualties to our forces. And you did this with soup cans? Yes, sir. The technique exploits enemy psychology. They're trained to identify tactical signatures. I'm creating false signatures that force investigation. Investigation creates exposure. Exposure creates targets. Fitzgerald studied the intelligence map on the table. Red marks indicated known or suspected Japanese positions, 15 sniper locations, 20 observation posts, uncounted machine gun nests. We've identified 15 Japanese sniper positions in this sector. They're killing 3 to 5 Marines daily, sometimes more. Good men, trained men, men we can't afford to lose. Your technique could neutralize them. Long pause while Fitzgerald considered implications. How many kills do you think you can realistically achieve? Daniel thought carefully before answering. Honesty mattered more than bravado. If they don't adapt, if I can stay unpredictable, maybe 20 to 30 in a week, assuming optimal conditions. Assuming they keep investigating. Assuming I don't get killed or wounded. Fitzgerald made his decision. Daniel could see it in the way the colonel's shoulders straightened. You have 5 days, starting tomorrow morning. I'm assigning you a dedicated 4-man security team. Your only mission is to eliminate enemy snipers and observers using whatever methods work. You have complete tactical autonomy. I don't care if you use soup cans, tin cans, or mess kits. Results matter. Methods don't. After 5 days, we assess effectiveness. If it's working, we expand the program Marine Corps wide. If not, you return to standard duty. Clear crystal, sir. That night, Daniel cleaned Louis's daughter's photograph, taped it more securely inside his helmet. The tape he used was medical tape, white, stark against the dark green helmet liner. He stared at those 2 little girls for long minutes. Maria, Sophia, your father died protecting you. Died protecting every American child. Every family. Every future. I'll make his death mean something. He wrote a letter to Thomas. His brother was in England now. 101st Airborne preparing for the invasion everyone knew was coming. Thomas would jump into France, would fight in hedgerows and villages, would face German machine guns and mortars. Tommy, lost my spotter today. Good man, father of 2 little girls. I'm going to make his death mean something, using what Dad taught us about hunting elk. But different. Hunt the system, not the target. Make them paranoid. Make them make mistakes. Make them expose themselves by trying to understand what we're doing. Stay safe, little brother. Use everything Dad taught us. Patience. Observation. Never do the same thing twice. Never create patterns they can learn. Come home. Daniel sealed the letter, gave it to the mail clerk. He had no way of knowing that in 1 month Thomas would be killed in Belgium. That the last letter Thomas would write home would mention Daniel's advice about patience and patterns. That Thomas would die doing exactly what Daniel taught him, holding a position so his unit could withdraw. Patient, observant, never panicking. Daniel had 5 days to prove soup cans could become weapons. He had no idea that by day 5 he would have killed 112 men, that an entire Japanese regiment would be paralyzed by fear, that the psychological cost would nearly destroy him, that weeks later he would tell Bobby Chen necessary doesn't mean proud. It means necessary. The mathematics of death were about to be rewritten, not through superior firepower, not through better equipment, through human ingenuity applied to discarded trash, through understanding that warfare isn't always won by the best soldiers. Sometimes it's won by soldiers who understand their enemy's psychology better than the enemy understands himself. November 10th would begin the most devastating 5 days in Pacific sniper warfare. Daniel Morrison, 23-year-old Montana farm boy, was about to become legend, and he would spend the rest of his life wishing he hadn't. November 10th, 1943, first day of sanctioned operations. Dawn came with the same oppressive humidity that made every breath feel like swallowing warm water. Daniel Morrison stood before his newly assigned security team, 4 Marines who would keep him alive while he hunted. Sergeant Robert Chen, 30 years old, Seattle. Demolitions expert before the war, worked in his father's construction company, had survived Guadalcanal, possessed the dark humor that comes from seeing too much death too young. Chen looked at the 20 soup cans Daniel had collected and shook his head. We're babysitting a guy who kills people with trash. My mother would be so proud. Private First Class James Walsh, 21. Boston. Radio man.
Nervous energy that manifested in constant movement, tapping fingers, shifting weight, checking equipment that didn't need checking. Walsh had been in combat for 6 weeks, still jumped at unexpected sounds. Private First Class David Miller, 19, Iowa farm boy. Recognized Daniel as kindred spirit immediately. Miller understood patience, understood waiting, understood that farming and hunting shared the same fundamental skill set. Observation, timing, knowing when to act and when to wait. Corporal Marcus Williams, 25, Detroit. Carried a harmonica in his left breast pocket. Never played it, just carried it like a talisman. Williams had steady hands, the kind of steady that comes from natural disposition rather than training. He would become the team's designated spotter after Luis's death. Daniel explained the plan. We position soup cans to create light patterns that look like tactical signals. Japanese forces will investigate. When they expose themselves, I shoot. After each engagement, we relocate immediately. Never shoot from the same position twice. Never create patterns they can learn. Questions. Chen raised his hand. What happens when they figure out the soup can trick? Then we adapt. Use sound instead of light. Use different patterns. Use their adaptation against them. The goal isn't the soup cans. The goal is making them paranoid, making them question everything they see, making them afraid to investigate anything unusual. That fear degrades their operational effectiveness more than the actual kills. Williams spoke quietly. How many men you planning to kill? Sergeant Daniel met his eyes. As many as necessary to keep Marines alive. 5 hours. First engagement of day 1. 6 soup cans arranged in a semicircle, facing Japanese lines 640 yards distant. Daniel had spent 90 minutes before dawn positioning them, each can angled precisely, string systems rigged for remote adjustment. He had drawn diagrams in his notebook, calculated sun angles, mapped reflection patterns based on time of day. This was engineering. Montana farm engineering applied to warfare. Daniel created a specific pattern. Flash from position 1 for 5 seconds. Darkness. Flash from position 3 for 3 seconds. Darkness. Repeat 3 times. The pattern suggested coordinated signaling. Multiple positions communicating, suggesting troop movement or operational planning. Through his 8-power scope, Daniel watched the Japanese bunker entrance, camouflaged with palm fronds and careful earthwork. Professional construction. These soldiers knew their craft. 2 Japanese soldiers emerged, clearly discussing something. One pointed toward the soup can positions, the other raised binoculars. Perfect, critical tactical detail that would make this engagement legendary. Daniel had positioned himself 90 degrees off-axis from the soup cans. Perfect ambush geometry. When the Japanese soldiers looked toward the light source, they were looking perpendicular to Daniel's actual position. They focused entirely on the cans, never imagining the real threat came from the flank. 2 shots, 2 seconds, 2 kills. Both soldiers dropped before their brains could process what was happening, before they could shout warning, before they could understand they'd been deceived. Chen, watching through binoculars from 20 yards behind Daniel, whispered, "Jesus, you didn't just shoot them. You hunted them." Daniel was already moving. 100-yard relocation south, new position, different angle, different background. The soup cans remained, still flashing, still suggesting that's where the shooter operated. By 1200 hours, Daniel had 9 confirmed kills. He operated like machinery. Shoot, relocate, new soup can set up. Shoot, relocate. Never the same position twice, never predictable, never giving Japanese forces anything they could pattern and counter. Japanese intelligence report captured after the battle documented their confusion. Enemy sniper operations demonstrate exceptional capability at extended ranges, estimated 600 to 800 meters. Estimate 3 to 4 sniper teams operating simultaneously based on engagement locations and timing, unable to locate positions despite extensive counter-sniper patrols. Recommend increased defensive measures and limitation of daylight movement. They thought Daniel was multiple people. His rapid position changes created that illusion. One man moving fast looked like 4 men operating simultaneously. But Daniel wasn't celebrating, wasn't feeling satisfaction. Each kill felt mechanical, necessary, like harvesting crops or slaughtering livestock, something that needed doing, something he was good at doing, nothing more. That night, Chen found Daniel staring at his hands. "You good, Morrison?" Daniel didn't look up. 9 men dead today. Each one had a name. Family. Maybe kids like Luis's daughters. They died because they were curious about light reflections. That's not combat. That's exploitation. Chen sat down beside him. That's warfare. You use every advantage. They'd do the same to us. Daniel finally looked up. I know. Doesn't make it feel less like murder. But intelligence had identified something that made tomorrow different. The Japanese sniper who killed Luis. Master Sergeant Takeshi Yamamoto's best student, hidden in a tree 700 yards east of Marine lines, responsible for 6 American casualties, including Luis. 3 Marine counter-sniper attempts had failed. This shooter was exceptional. Tomorrow Daniel would face him. November 11th, 1943. Day 2. The Duel of Minds. Daniel had spent all night studying intelligence reports on the tree sniper. Williams had compiled everything available: battalion intelligence, reconnaissance reports, eyewitness accounts from survivors. The sniper never fired twice from the same position within the tree. He had at least 3 different firing platforms, connected by concealed wooden structures. He showed perfect fire discipline, never took low-probability shots, never exposed himself unnecessarily, never created patterns. This man had survived the Eastern Front before Pacific deployment, had killed Soviet snipers who themselves were exceptional. This was not an amateur. This was a professional who understood the game at the highest level. Standard Supkan tricks wouldn't work. This operator was too experienced to investigate random light flashes, too disciplined to let curiosity override training. Daniel needed something this sniper couldn't ignore: the command post gambit. He developed an elaborate deception. His security team moved conspicuously, carrying radio equipment that was actually non-functional, map cases, clipboards, acting like forward observers setting up a command post. Chen and Walsh performed beautifully, walking with purpose, pointing, discussing imaginary tactical problems loud enough to carry. Daniel positioned soup cans to create light flashes that appeared to signal between this fake command post and frontline positions. Coordinated communication. Tactical planning. From a Japanese sniper's perspective, this was intelligence goldmine. Forward, American command post conducting visual signals meant vulnerability, meant high-value targets, meant opportunity. The sniper would have to investigate. Daniel positioned himself 500 yards north of the fake command post, perpendicular line of sight to the target tree. If the sniper focused on the command post, he would never see Daniel's position. 09:30 hours. The wait began. 90 minutes of absolutely nothing. Daniel's internal crisis started quietly, whispers of doubt that grew louder with each passing minute.
What if I'm wrong? What if he's not even there? What if he relocated after killing Luis? What if I'm wasting time and resources on elaborate deception while other Marines die from conventional threats? I could be addressing Luis's daughters. Don't care about my clever tactics. They just want their father home. But he's not coming home, because I failed to protect him, because I didn't see that Japanese sniper first, because I was focusing on the wrong sector at the wrong moment. So I better not fail now. Chen whispered from behind. You good? Thinking about my spotter, his kids, then make this shot count for them. In 2-3 hours. Contact. Branch movement. 600 yards out. Inconsistent with wind. Too deliberate. Too controlled. Daniel's Montana hunting instinct recognized it instantly. Elk do that. Press against a branch, slowly thinking they're invisible because they're moving slow. But the branch remembers. The branch shows movement even when the elk stops.
Through his 8-power scope, Daniel began systematic scanning of the target tree. Grid pattern, top to bottom, left to right, looking for anything inconsistent with natural foliage. 11:25 hours. Found it. Small opening in the foliage, 15 inches wide, positioned for perfect view of the fake command post. The opening itself was professional work, carefully constructed to provide sightline while maintaining concealment from most angles. But Daniel wasn't shooting from most angles, he was shooting from perpendicular. 27 hours. The opening darkened slightly. Someone had moved into position behind it, setting up for observation or shot. Daniel couldn't see the man, only the subtle change in light level that indicated presence. Then the rifle barrel emerged, 6 inches of steel, protruding through the foliage opening, aiming toward the fake command post where Chen and Walsh continued their performance. Daniel had him. Range, 712 yards. Wind, 8 miles per hour from southeast. Quartering wind. Tricky. He needed to hold 2 feet right and 30 inches high to compensate for both wind drift and bullet drop at this range. Daniel controlled his breathing, forced his heart rate down. Montana elk hunting patience, his father's voice in his memory. Don't rush the shot, the animal will wait. Your anxiety won't improve accuracy. The Japanese sniper's rifle steadied. He was preparing to shoot, preparing to kill Chen or Walsh, preparing to add another American casualty to his count. Daniel fired. Flight time, 2.1 seconds. The bullet arced through humid jungle air.
traveling at 2,600 feet per second at muzzle, slowing from air resistance, dropping from gravity, drifting from wind, physics and mathematics combining in lethal trajectory. The bullet passed through the 15-inch foliage opening, threading a needle at 712 yards. It struck the Japanese sniper in the head. Through the scope, Daniel watched. The rifle barrel dropped first, falling from suddenly nerveless hands. Then the body came, falling through tree branches, crashing through the wooden platforms, breaking through foliage, hitting the ground with an impact Daniel couldn't hear but could imagine. Silence. Chen's voice. Quiet. Awed. Did you just... Got him. Marines searched the position that afternoon, found extensive sniper equipment, German-made Zeiss scope, Japanese-manufactured rifle, ammunition, camouflage materials, rations, water, everything needed for extended operations. They found a logbook, handwritten, meticulous, documenting 53 American casualties over 3 months. Dates, times, ranges, conditions. The man had been keeping score, like Daniel kept score of elk harvests in Montana. They found identification. Top student of Master Sergeant Takeshi Yamamoto, 6th Division's most experienced sniper instructor. And they found a photograph. Woman and young boy. Maybe 8 years old. The woman was beautiful. Traditional dress, serious expression. The boy smiled, missing front teeth like Luis's daughter Maria. Daniel stared at that photograph for 5 full minutes. Same thing, different side. Both of us just trying to protect something. He had a son. That boy will grow up without his father now, just like Maria and Sophia are growing up without Luis. Williams reached for the photo. Morrison, you don't need to. Daniel handed it over. Leave it with the body. For burial detail, his family should have it back if possible. But something changed that afternoon. Japanese forces stopped investigating random light flashes, stopped responding to unusual phenomena, pulled back sentries, enforced stricter fire discipline. They were adapting. Battalion intelligence officer delivered the assessment to Daniel personally. Enemy has recognized your technique and implemented countermeasures. They're refusing to investigate unusual activity. Your effectiveness may be significantly degraded. Daniel considered this. Good. That means it's working. If they're refusing to investigate anything unusual, they're operating partially blind, can't gather intelligence, can't identify actual threats, can't distinguish real signals from false ones. I forced them to adapt in a way that limits their own effectiveness. But now I need to escalate. If they won't investigate light flashes, I need to create situations they absolutely cannot ignore. November 12th, 1943, Day 3. Horror movie. Daniel deployed 8 soup cans instead of his usual 5 or 6. Positioned them to create a coordinated signal network. Pattern suggested major troop movements. Attack preparation. Operational planning at scale. This wasn't random light flashes. This was simulated tactical communication that Japanese intelligence could not afford to ignore. If Americans were preparing major assault, Japanese commanders needed to know. Needed to position defenses, needed to request reinforcements. They had to investigate. But nature provided Daniel with unexpected advantage. Heavy morning fog rolled in from the ocean. Visibility dropped below 200 yards for most soldiers. Japanese forces assumed weather had grounded sniper operations. Assumed fog provided cover. They assumed wrong, something they didn't know. Daniel's scope used lenses scavenged from destroyed equipment. German-made Zeiss glass, captured from a German liaison officer killed fighting alongside Japanese forces in New Guinea. The optics had been traded through unofficial channels, marine to marine, equipment that worked better than issued gear. The Zeiss lenses gathered more light than standard American scopes. In the dim fog, Daniel could see clearly at 500 yards. Japanese soldiers, believing themselves invisible in the weather, moved more freely. Mistake. 800 hours through 1200 hours became legendary in battalion history. 16 confirmed kills. But the manner of those kills created something worse than casualties. Created psychological horror. Japanese soldiers fell silently. No sound of incoming fire. Distance and fog suppressed noise below audible threshold. Men just collapsed. Walking one moment, dead the next. Their comrades never saw the muzzle flash, never heard the shot, never identified threat direction. They watched friends die from invisible enemy. Ghost. Demon. Something that killed without warning from impossible range in impossible weather. One Japanese private's diary, captured 3 days later, documented the psychological impact. November 12, 1943. Something is very wrong. Men die investigating lights. Officers say ignore all phenomena, but headquarters demands intelligence on enemy movements. This morning, heavy fog. Corporal Matsuda and I on patrol route. We heard nothing. No shots, no movement, no sound of any kind except jungle birds and our own breathing.
Matsuda walked ahead 10 meters. Standard patrol interval. He fell. Just fell. Like invisible hand pushed him down. I crawled to him. Dead. Bullet through chest. Perfect center mass. I saw no muzzle flash. Heard no report. Saw no enemy. Where did shot come from? How did enemies see through fog? 3 men in my squad dead in 3 days investigating American tricks. I no longer trust my eyes. I no longer trust the jungle. I no longer trust that I will survive tomorrow. Is this American technological superiority, or are we facing Demon Major Kenji Yamamoto entered the story here? Battalion Commander opposing Daniel's sector. 43 years old. Career officer. Competent. Experienced. Respected by his men, because he genuinely cared about their survival. Frustrated by mysterious casualties he couldn't explain or prevent. His war diary captured after his death 3 days later, November 12, 1943. Enemy employs unknown signaling methods. Attempts to locate signal sources result in casualties. Sniper fire of exceptional accuracy eliminates observers from distances exceeding 600 meters. Weather provides no protection. Fog provides no cover. Cannot determine if signals are genuine tactical communication or elaborate deception designed to draw investigation. Cannot distinguish real threats from false threats. Morale declining rapidly. Men whisper about Akuma no Sogeki Hei, demon sniper. I do not believe in demons, but I believe in American ingenuity, and I fear we have no tactical answer for this particular innovation. Every decision I make results in casualties. Investigate signals, men die. Ignore signals, we operate blind. The American has created impossible dilemma. No winning choice, only different methods of losing. November 13th, 1943, Day 4, Peak Performance Day. The day Daniel Morrison became legend and started breaking inside. 27 confirmed kills, single day. Multiple sophisticated gambits deployed simultaneously. Command post deception with fake headquarters setup. Patrol signal coordination suggesting American patrols moving through Japanese territory. Artillery observer simulation with light patterns that mimicked forward observers spotting targets for indirect fire. Each gambit played on Japanese tactical fears and intelligence priorities. They couldn't ignore potential threats. Investigation became mandatory despite casualties. Exposure became inevitable. Death followed. But something changed in Daniel that evening. The realization. Chen approached Daniel in his foxhole after the day's operations concluded. 27 confirmed kills. 27 men who woke up that morning and died before sunset. 27 today. You're a machine, Morrison. Daniel didn't respond. Stared at his hands, at the Springfield leaning against the foxhole wall, at Louise's daughter's photograph still taped inside his helmet.
You all right? I'm not hunting soldiers anymore. I'm hunting decision-making itself. Chen sat down. What, Yamamoto? Their battalion commander. He can't win. If he ignores my signals, he operates blind, can't see American movements, can't identify real threats, can't position defenses effectively. If he investigates, his men die. I'm not killing individuals anymore. I'm destroying their ability to make rational command decisions, creating organizational paralysis through psychological warfare. Pause. Daniel looked up. That's worse than just shooting them. I'm making them choose between bad options. No way to win, just different ways to lose, different methods of getting their men killed. Chen spoke carefully. That's warfare, Morrison. That's what makes you effective. Daniel's voice went flat. Effective? Yeah, but Louise was a teacher, taught kids to think critically, taught them to analyze problems and find solutions.
What would he say about me teaching enemy commanders that thinking gets your men killed, that every decision results in casualties, he wrote in his journal that night. Hand shaking slightly from exhaustion or emotion or both. 68 confirmed kills in 4 days. I'm exceptional at this. Too exceptional. Dad taught me to hunt elk, make them paranoid, force them into mistakes, make them expose themselves by trying to understand what we're doing. I'm doing the same to Japanese soldiers. But elk don't have families. Elk don't write letters home. Elk don't have commanders who feel responsible for their deaths. Every kill is someone's son. Many are fathers. Many have brothers like Thomas who worry about them. I'm necessary. War requires my skills. Battalion commander says I'm saving American lives. And I am. The mathematics support that conclusion. But I'm not proud. And I'm starting to wonder if there's actually a difference between necessary and murder when you're this efficient at it. November 14th, 1943, Day 5, the crescendo, the peak, the moment everything culminated, the engagement that would haunt Daniel Morrison for 58 years. 31 confirmed kills. Single day. Highest single-day total by any American sniper in the Pacific Theater. 14:30 hours. The mass engagement. Daniel positioned soup cans to suggest major American assault coordination. Multiple signal points, complex patterns, communications between battalion elements. Japanese forces believing attack was imminent, repositioned multiple units across open terrain. Officers had to expose themselves to coordinate defensive preparations, had to move between positions, had to communicate with subordinate units, had to ensure defensive sectors were properly manned and supplied. Standard operating procedure during crisis.
The kind of movement that's necessary during tactical emergency. The kind of movement that gets officers killed when enemy snipers are watching. 90-minute engagement. Daniel and his security team engaged targets of opportunity with devastating precision. Williams called targets. Chen provided security. Walsh maintained communications with battalion. Miller reloaded magazines. 11 Japanese soldiers fell, including 2 officers whose deaths created command confusion that degraded the entire defensive sector's effectiveness for 3 days afterward. But it wasn't an action movie anymore, wasn't tactical excellence or professional soldiering. It was tragedy. Kill number 103 came at 15:47 hours. Daniel had watched the target for 3 minutes before taking the shot. Japanese captain, young officer coordinating defensive positions. The officer was reading a letter when Daniel's bullet struck. Personal correspondence from home. Words of love crossing impossible distance. Now those words would never be answered. The captain fell. The letter fluttered from his hand into mud. Daniel lowered his rifle, sat back. "That's enough for today," Chen protested. "We still have daylight. There's still repositioning, multiple targets exposed. I said enough." That night, Daniel couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, stared at Luis's daughter's photograph, stared at his journal, stared at the number. 103 confirmed kills in 5 days. He wrote a letter to Thomas, never sent, kept it folded in his journal where it would remain for 60 years. Tommy, I've become what Dad taught us to be, patient, observant, lethal, the perfect hunter, the ideal sniper. Marine Corps is talking about using my techniques across the entire Pacific Theater. They want me to train other snipers, turn my methods into doctrine. But Dad hunted to feed the family, hunted because we needed meat to survive Montana winters. I'm killing men whose families will starve without them. 103 men in 5 days, each one somebody's son. Many were fathers. Many had brothers like you. The mathematics work. The logic is sound. I'm saving American lives. Battalion intelligence estimates my operations have degraded enemy effectiveness by 60%. 60% fewer Marines dying. That's good. That's important. That's necessary. But the morality doesn't balance. I don't know how to carry this home. Don't know if I deserve to come home. Don't know what I'll say if someone thanks me for my service. Stay safe, little brother. Maybe you'll figure out what I can't. How to be good at something terrible and still remain human. Bobby Chen found Daniel awake at 0300 hours, sitting in his foxhole, staring at nothing. You good? We've killed over 100 men in 5 days. Does good apply anymore? Chen sat down beside him. They'd kill us if positions reversed. Daniel finally looked at him. That's what scares me, Chen. We're the same. Just different sides of the same mud. Same scared kids following orders from old men who won't be doing the dying. I'm just better at killing them than they are at killing me. 75 times better according to the statistics. And that doesn't make me proud. It makes me sad that I was needed. Makes me sad that being exceptional at killing is considered valuable. Makes me wonder what kind of world requires 19-year-old farm boys to become expert at ending human lives from 700 yards away. Long silence. Jungle sounds. Distant artillery. Radio chatter from nearby positions. Tomorrow's your last day, Morrison. 1 more day. Then you're done. Daniel nodded slowly. 9 more kills to reach 112. Then I stop. Then someone else can be the demon sniper. Then someone else can carry this weight. He had no idea that tomorrow something else would happen.
Something that would make 112 kills feel meaningless. Something that would break him completely. November 15th, 1943, Day 5, final day. The sky opened with heavy clouds, thick grey mass that blocked the sun completely. No sunlight meant no soup can light reflections.
The technique that had killed 103 men in 4 days was suddenly useless. Daniel adapted. Empty ammunition cans, larger than soup cans, more resonant. He filled them with pebbles, small stones from the jungle floor, positioned them in trees and bushes using the same string and wire systems he'd developed for the soup cans. When he pulled the strings remotely, the cans shook, pebbles rattled, created sounds that suggested American movement, equipment being handled, positions being adjusted, activity that Japanese observers needed to investigate and report. Different technique, different sensory exploitation, same fundamental psychology. 9 final kills across 7 hours. Mechanical execution. No celebration. Each target investigating sounds. Each one following orders to investigate unusual phenomena. Each one dead before understanding deception. 15:45 hours. Kill number 112. Japanese officer moving between positions. Captain on Yamamoto's staff. Coordinating defenses. Daniel positioned sound-making cans to create distraction pattern. The officer stood partially exposed, consulting a map, trying to maintain defensive coherence despite days of mysterious casualties and psychological pressure. Through his scope, Daniel saw the officer's face clearly. Young, maybe 26, scared but determined, doing his duty despite fear, despite knowing American sniper was operating, despite watching his battalion dissolve through attrition and terror. The officer reached inside his jacket, pulled out a letter, read it while consulting the map. Same gesture Daniel had seen yesterday. Same human moment of connection to home while surrounded by death. Someone's waiting for that letter. Someone wrote it, believing their words would bring comfort, bring hope, bring love across impossible distance. Range 630 yards, wind light, easy shot by Daniel's standards, his crosshairs settled center mass. This is 112. This is enough. After this, I stop. After this, someone else carries this burden. Shot broke at 15:47 hours. Officer fell. Letter fluttered into mud. Daniel immediately withdrew. Returned to battalion lines at 1600 hours. Exactly 5 days since Lieutenant Colonel Fitzgerald had given him carte blanche to prove soup cans could become weapons. Fitzgerald met him at battalion headquarters. Final count 112 confirmed, sir. 97 verified by secondary observers. Fitzgerald's face showed something between awe and concern. Outstanding work, Morrison. You've exceeded every expectation.
Division wants you reassigned to training duties, wants your techniques disseminated Marine Corps wide. This could change how we fight across the entire Pacific Theater. Daniel interrupted. Permission to be relieved from sniper duties, sir. Fitzgerald stopped, studied Daniel's face. You're the most effective sniper in Marine Corps history. Why would you want relief? Because 112 is enough, sir. I've done what was necessary. I don't need to do more. Don't want to do more. Can't do more. November 16th, 1943. The Intelligence Assessment. Formal report filed by Battalion Intelligence Officer. Typed on manual typewriter. Carbon copies distributed to Regiment, Division and Marine Corps Headquarters. Summary. Staff Sergeant Daniel Morrison employed innovative deception techniques to neutralize enemy sniper and observation positions with unprecedented effectiveness. Methodology.
Using improvised light reflectors and sound devices, Morrison created false tactical signatures, forcing enemy personnel to expose themselves for observation and targeting. Results: 112 confirmed enemy casualties, 97 verified by secondary observers, 57 confirmed as sniper observer or communications personnel, 19 confirmed as officers or senior enlisted, estimated 300 enemy man-hours wasted investigating false signatures, enemy intelligence gathering capability degraded by estimated 60 to 70%. Significant psychological impact on enemy forces documented through captured diaries and interrogation of prisoners. Recommendation: methodology merits immediate documentation for wider implementation. Recommend Staff Sergeant Morrison reassignment to training duties to disseminate techniques. Also recommend immediate promotion to gunnery sergeant and decoration for extraordinary heroism. Major Yamamoto's final diary entry. Written November 16th. 3 days before his death in American artillery strike. November 16th, 1943. The American Demon Sniper has ceased operations. 5 days. 112 of my men killed. I have destroyed my battalion's effectiveness through my own command decisions. Each time I ordered investigation of suspicious phenomena, men died. Each time I ordered ignoring phenomena, we operated without intelligence, without understanding enemy intentions or movements. The American did not defeat me with superior equipment, did not defeat me with better training. He defeated me by making rational command decisions impossible, by creating situations where every choice results in casualties. Officers afraid to expose themselves for coordination. Soldiers refusing reconnaissance missions despite orders. Morale collapsed completely.
Cannot maintain defensive posture under these conditions. I have failed my men.
They deserved better commander than one who could not counter soup cans and sunlight. If I survive this battle, I will carry this shame forever. But I understand now. Warfare is not won by best soldiers. It is won by soldiers who force enemy into impossible choices. The American understood this. I did not. My failure. My responsibility. My shame. He died 3 days later. Never learned the American demon sniper was one man. Never learned about Montana elk hunting. Never learned his opponent was 23-year-old farm boy who felt the same shame Yamamoto felt, who carried the same burden, who questioned the same moral calculations. 2 professional soldiers, both competent, both dedicated, both trying to protect their men, both destroyed by requirements of their duty. November 20th, 1943, Rear Area Recovery Base, 2 weeks of mandatory rest. Medical officers noted combat exhaustion symptoms, difficulty sleeping, reduced appetite, occasional hand tremors, flat affect.
Classic signs of acute stress reaction. Daniel spent days writing, detailed after-action report for Marine Corps headquarters, diagrams showing soup can positioning, calculations for reflection angles, psychology of curiosity exploitation, methods for creating false tactical signatures, everything he'd learned and developed. His report title: Employment of Improvised Deception Devices in Counter-Sniper Operations. The report became required reading at Marine sniper schools, copied and distributed, studied and analyzed, turned into doctrine. His techniques would be used across the Pacific, would kill hundreds more Japanese soldiers, would save hundreds of American lives. Report excerpt. The soup can technique succeeds because it exploits enemy psychology rather than defeats enemy equipment. By creating false signatures they cannot ignore, we force response cycles that expose them to engagement. Key is understanding what enemy cannot ignore based on their training doctrine and tactical priorities. But we must remember, effectiveness must be balanced with humanity. Every kill, no matter how justified tactically, carries moral weight we will carry home. I killed 112 Japanese soldiers in 5 days. Each was necessary for mission accomplishment and force protection. None make me proud. Necessary and proud are different words. We must never confuse them. December 18th, 1943. Mail call. Letter from home. Daniel's hands shook opening it. He knew before reading. Knew from the envelope type. Official military notification. Heavy paper. Formal typography. Dear Daniel, it is with deepest sorrow we inform you. Thomas was killed in action December 16, 1943 in Belgium during German counter-offensive operations. He died holding his position so his unit could withdraw. Posthumous Silver Star for valor above and beyond. The citation says he remained in exposed position providing covering fire for 40 minutes. Killed 7 German soldiers, saved 30 American lives. He was patient, observant, never panicked, used everything you taught him. Army says he was exceptional soldier. We know he was exceptional son and brother. We know you'll blame yourself. Don't. Thomas chose to serve, was proud to fight, was proud of you, talked about his big brother who taught him to hunt, to think, to survive. Come home safe, Daniel. We've already lost one son. Can't lose both. Love, Mum. Daniel collapsed. Letter clutched in shaking hands. Bobby Chen found him. Read the letter without asking permission. Sat down beside Daniel in silence. 5 minutes passed. I'm sorry, Morrison. Daniel's voice broke. I killed 112 men to protect Marines. Couldn't protect the one person who mattered most. All that patience, all that precision, all that innovation, all that tactical genius everyone's celebrating. Useless when it counted. Tommy died because I wasn't there. Because I was here playing games with soup cans while my brother faced German machine guns alone. Chen started to speak. Don't. Just don't say it wasn't my fault. Don't say I couldn't have known. Don't say I was where I was needed. Tommy needed me, and I wasn't there. That's the only fact that matters. That night, Daniel wrote final journal entry for 1943. 112 confirmed kills, 2 deaths I couldn't prevent. Luis, Tommy. Math says I succeeded. Net positive. 112 enemy dead. Hundreds of Marines saved through degraded enemy effectiveness. Battalion commander says my techniques changed the war. Division says I'm hero. But math doesn't account for Luis's daughters growing up without father. Doesn't account for Tommy dying in Belgium mud. Doesn't account for 112 Japanese families receiving notifications like Mom received. I hunt systems, make enemies paranoid, force impossible choices.
But I couldn't hunt the system that took Tommy. Couldn't make death paranoid. Couldn't force war into impossible choice. Necessary doesn't mean proud, it means necessary. And right now I'm not sure necessary is enough. Not sure anything is enough. Not sure I deserve to survive when Luis and Tommy didn't. January 1944. Orders to Camp Pendleton as sniper school instructor. Daniel initially refused. I can't teach men to become what I became. Lieutenant Colonel Fitzgerald sat across from him. You teach them to survive, to think, to protect their brothers. That's what you did. That's what they need. Luis's daughters need more Marines to come home alive. Your brother Thomas would want his death to mean something. Teaching is how you make it mean something. You turn 112 kills into thousands of Marines who survive because they learned from you. That's how you honor the dead. Both sides. Daniel accepted.
For the war's remainder, he trained over 400 Marine snipers. His teaching methodology broke from traditional military instruction. He didn't emphasize marksmanship alone, emphasized creativity, psychology, understanding enemy behavior patterns, thinking 3 moves ahead. Key teaching moment witnessed by 47 students in April 1944. Student raised his hand. Gunnery Sergeant. How many men did you kill? Daniel met his eyes without flinching. 112 confirmed. Each one was someone's son. Many were fathers. Many had brothers who loved them like I loved mine. I was effective. I am not proud. Necessary and proud are different words. Your job is to be necessary and come home human. Never confuse the two. I killed 112 men. That's not success. That's tragedy repeated 112 times. Success is you coming home to your families. Success is making the war end sooner so fewer men die on both sides. War makes that complicated.
Makes it impossible sometimes. So we do what's necessary. But never ever think killing is something to celebrate. Never think efficiency at ending human lives makes you a better person. It makes you useful, not admirable. Another teaching principle he repeated constantly. The rifle is just a tool. Your real weapon is creativity. Enemy trains to counter known threats. Your job is becoming unknown threat while remaining known human to yourself. I used soup cans because Japanese trained to spot conventional threats. Didn't train for weaponized garbage. You'll face different enemies, different contexts, different challenges. Your job is to find what they don't expect. But remember, they're doing the same thing. They're creative too. They're trying to survive too. They're humans too. Never forget that. Moment you forget, enemy's humanity is moment you lose your own. By January 1944, Marine sniper teams across the Pacific implemented variations of Daniel's techniques. Supply officers began issuing polished metal plates designed specifically for light reflection, officially designated Morrison plates in unofficial parlance. The technique became standard equipment doctrine through the war's remainder. Japanese training manuals captured in 1945 showed they developed specific countermeasures. Do not investigate unusual light phenomena without officer authorization. Conduct all investigations using minimum personnel from maximum cover. Assume all unusual sounds are enemy deception until proven otherwise. Maintain strict fire discipline regardless of apparent tactical opportunities. These countermeasures validated Daniel's achievement. When an enemy develops specific doctrine to counter your technique, when they change their training and tactics, when they create new procedures specifically because of what you did, you've succeeded in changing their behavior. You've achieved strategic impact as individual soldier.
Daniel received the Navy Cross in March 1945. Citation read in part. For extraordinary heroism and distinguished service while serving as scout sniper with 2nd Battalion 3rd Marine Division. Gunnery Sergeant Morrison employed exceptional tactical innovation to neutralize enemy positions with devastating effectiveness, demonstrating initiative, creativity, and dedication to duty that reflects great credit upon himself and the United States Marine Corps. He left active duty November 1945, returned to Montana, took a job teaching at Missoula High School, history and English for 40 years, wrestling coach, chess club advisor, rarely discussed his wartime service publicly. Students remembered him as patient, encouraging, always emphasizing creative problem-solving and critical thinking. One former student interviewed in 2001 said, "Mr. Morrison never talked about the war directly, but we knew he'd done something important. He taught us to think 3 moves ahead. Question assumptions. Look for simple solutions to complex problems. Be patient. Observe carefully. Never give up." I didn't know until years later he'd been a sniper. Makes perfect sense, though. That's exactly how he taught. Multiple approaches to same problem. Persistence. Innovation. But Daniel also taught something else, something his students remembered even more clearly than the tactical lessons.
Being good at something doesn't mean you should be proud of it if it caused suffering. He was good at killing. That made him sad, not proud. He told us once that being exceptional at something terrible doesn't make you an exceptional person, just makes you useful during terrible times. Real measure of person is what they do after the terrible times end. One of Daniel's former students, Staff Sergeant Michael Torres, deployed to Afghanistan in 2004. Pinned down by sniper fire in Helmand province, Torres remembered his teacher's words from a high school classroom 20 years earlier.
Hunt the system, not the target. Make them paranoid. Torres used signal mirrors to create false positions, drew enemy fire to empty ground while his team flanked, neutralized the threat, saved 6 Marines. He wrote to Daniel afterward, "Mr. Morrison, you taught me to think, not just shoot, taught me creativity matters more than firepower, taught me to hunt behavior patterns instead of individuals. That knowledge saved my life and my team in Afghanistan. I used your soup can principle with mirrors and misdirection. It worked. 6 Marines came home because you taught a kid in Montana how to think differently. Thank you for teaching me to be human while being effective. Thank you for showing me that necessary doesn't mean proud. I carry that lesson every day. Respectfully, Jeet Michael Torres, USMC." Daniel kept that letter until he died. It was found in his desk drawer, worn from being read hundreds of times, creased from being unfolded and refolded. Evidence that teaching mattered more than killing, that 40 years in a classroom counted more than 5 days in a jungle. Daniel Morrison died May 2003, age 81, Missoula, Montana. Funeral attended by 47 former students, 12 former Marines he'd trained. No active media at family's request. Bobby Chen, age 80, delivered eulogy. He'd survived the war, become engineer, raised family, carried his own memories of 5 days in November 1943. Dan Morrison taught me that patience kills more than bullets. He taught 400 Marines to survive by thinking, not just shooting. He taught 1,000 students to question assumptions and solve problems creatively. He was good at killing, exceptional at it. 112 confirmed kills in 5 days. But he was better at teaching. That's what he wanted to be remembered for. The lives he saved through teaching, not the lives he took through shooting. The soup can trick was clever. Dan Morrison was wise. We'll miss the wisdom more than we'll remember the tactics. We'll honor the teacher more than we'll celebrate the warrior, because that's what he would have wanted. That's who he was after the war ended, and who we are after the war defines us more than who we were during it. In 2015, the National Museum of the Marine Corps displayed Daniel's Springfield rifle. 3 soup cans recovered from Bougainville in 2007 sat alongside it. Dented, rusted, unremarkable pieces of trash that changed tactical doctrine. The placard read, "These ordinary objects transformed by extraordinary thinking represent the innovative spirit that defined American fighting forces in World War II. Gunnery Sergeant Daniel Morrison proved that success stems not from superior equipment, but from superior thinking. His employment of improvised deception devices on Bougainville exemplified Marine Corps values of innovation, initiative, and mission accomplishment through unconventional means."
But Morrison's greater legacy lies not in the 112 enemy casualties, but in the 400 Marines he trained who came home alive, and the 1,000 students he taught who learned that creativity matters more than resources, and that humanity matters more than efficiency. The display case also contained Daniel's journal, Luis Hernandez's daughter's photograph, Thomas Morrison's Silver Star citation, Major Yamamoto's translated diary, Daniel's Navy Cross, Staff Sergeant Torres's letter from Afghanistan, and a photograph of Daniel teaching at Missoula High School in 1982. 60-year-old man with patient eyes, explaining something to students who leaned forward to listen. 112 men dead, 5 days, 1 Montana farm boy with garbage and ingenuity. But this story isn't about killing. It's about what humans can accomplish when necessity demands innovation and survival depends on creativity. Daniel Morrison didn't have best equipment.
He made better solutions from trash. That's not just military history, that's human history. The ability to look at impossible problems and say, "I'll figure it out." But the story is also about cost. Daniel figured it out. Killed 112 men, saved hundreds of Americans, revolutionized doctrine, and spent 58 years carrying the weight of 112 deaths. 1 brother's death, 1 spotter's death. He was necessary, he was effective, he was exceptional, he was not proud. Because the best warriors understand that victory isn't measured in enemy casualties, it's measured in whether you can live with yourself after. Dan Morrison lived with himself by teaching others, by emphasizing creativity over violence, by saying necessary doesn't mean proud for 58 years until his death. The soup can trick changed tactical doctrine. Dan Morrison's life changed how we understand the cost of tactical genius.